I'm Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Y'all, my bad. I forgot that I changed it to 5 o'clock and not 5:15. Y'all know I'm always run right on time. So thank you so much for everybody that is here. There is a real Facebook group, Lisa. So there is a Psych Nerds Facebook group. Okay. I have a for real Facebook group. Let me see if the command I don't think it works, but, I will find that link while we're watching something, and I will make sure to put that in the chat. Y'all, I've been waiting to see if the jury was gonna come back before I started the stream, so they are on Pacific time. So this case, Ali Abulaban out of California, they are on Pacific time. The jury has been deliberating since this morning. Everything finished up I think on Friday, and they started their deliberations, and they are considering manslaughter, first degree or second degree. And the defense, of course, asked for manslaughter. The prosecution asked for first degree. I found some interesting information. So there was a psychologist, Dr. Lehman, that testified about his diagnosis. And so we will definitely be covering that. And we will just start there. I got a new setup, so please let me know if things don't sound right. I know. So that's really so they are saying there was no premeditation. That's really what the defense is going for. I, I especially for Ray, there have been a lot of cultural comments within the videos of the chat or the comments of my videos where people are bringing up culture. And Ali, now he is presenting with this long hair, he has a beard. I think he normally presented pretty clean shaven, he kept his hair pretty short. In my opinion, he seemed to kind of distance himself from his culture of origin, like, that's how I saw it, and he desperately wanted to fit in as much as possible with American culture, and because a lot of people are saying, "Could this have been an honor unaliving?" And for me, an honor thing would be if he had went for the wife first. He went for Ray first, and I don't even know if I believe him when he talks about that he heard R&B music going in the background. This case is so, so, so troubling. Thank y'all for the comments. Thank y'all. We're going oh, it's almost summer, not quite, but we're going into summer. Yes, I definitely think it was a jealous rage. I think it was about respect for him, and the prosecution tried to ask him, "Did you say respect?" And he tried to distance himself from that. He desperately wanted to be loved and appreciated, but he didn't take responsibility or accountability for his behavior, and it's a very, very troubling case. I wanted to start with this news clip that I found because they start to mention the psychologist testimony, and they also talk about his mom. And somebody brought up something about his mom that I wasn't fully aware of. So Ali Abulaban, his mom, I think married his dad and was pregnant with her first child by around 15 years old. And by 19 years old, she had 3 children. And Ali's dad, it was in his early 20s, and they're yeah, and so she was very young, and I think she deferred a lot to the father because during her testimony, it's my understanding she said something to the effect of she would always say, like, "Wait until your dad gets home." And that can happen in a lot of different cultures. And yes, that definitely seems like that's what happened in this case because she was 15 when she had Ali. I don't know how old they were. I don't know how old. And I agree, Sarah, that nose powder did not help their situation at all. Please let me know if y'all have questions as we're going. Let's start here.
On the ground.
In court, she was
How is it?
What she did right there kind of reminded me, not so Ali is on an extreme. Does that make sense? Ali's emotional dysregulation and, in my opinion, disrespect for the court went very, very I found an article that went into the psychologist testimony a little bit more. And so all the full links are always linked down in the description. But with this case, if you need a history of this case, please, I have a few other videos that I've done going over the full history of this. But all right, let's get to the psychologist. It is Dr. Lehman, who is a clinical and forensic psychologist retained by the defense, who diagnosed him with bipolar 1, complex trauma, alcohol and stimulant dependence, and unspecified personality disorder with borderline, antisocial, and narcissistic features. I thought that part was really interesting because a lot of you all were in the chat saying you all were seeing signs of borderline personality disorder, especially with his fear of rejection, his fear of abandonment, the I love you, I hate you, why are you doing this to me? I sent you flowers. So he didn't meet full criteria for any one of those diagnoses. An unspecified personality disorder says that there are traits of these different things. He was not put into any one thing. The prosecution, because we're going to take a look at closing arguments, the prosecution is going to bring up the fact that this testing is based on Ali's self report. And so this is after the incident because he wasn't claiming not guilty by reason of insanity. He wasn't saying that at the time of the crime that he was mentally incapacitated and didn't know the difference between right and wrong. What he's saying is that it was a crime of passion. That is what he is trying to say. I th- a Insanity defense would have been a lot harder to prove, and I don't think that would have really went through either because of all the planning and the meticulous things that he did along the way. And then he also has a history of DV. And yeah. Yep. So a lot of people are saying, so I personally don't see any signs of autism spectrum disorder. Sometimes individuals with ADHD sometimes struggle with social skills. It sounds like the family were like he was limited with the time that he spent with other children. And it doesn't sound like he had very good social skills. And the way that he would compensate for that lack of social skills is by faking it. So by like playing these characters, by kind of possibly, like, mimicking empathy, that he would do that. It sounds like that's what would happen within those relationships. Alright. And Liz, the way that he described using the nose candy, it was to give him he wanted to be extra focused for what he was about to do, like, for the confrontation, but the way that he describes it, it describes it's if I was on the jury, I personally would likely find him guilty of first degree because all of the planning, the prosecution had that as soon as he got to the apartment earlier that day, that put the he opened the Discord app on his daughter's phone to to set up that for it to record, that he did all of these things. He then trashed the apartment. It wasn't this aha moment that he had later. It sounds like that was the intention and the purpose that he had. Now, there are some people that sometimes with clients I work with that a person can learn it. He seemed to use it to manipulate. So there's a very big difference between using empathy to get my way and to manipulate people versus using empathy to truly see how the other person feels. In my opinion, he would fake empathy as a way to connect, but then to exploit and manipulate. Those are my thoughts and opinions based on things that we've heard and seen. Oh, PD spectrum, personality disorder spectrum. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Definitely a personality spectrum. So I saw more narcissistic traits. I saw the testimony of the 19-year-old that lived in the building that he had an interaction with, I think a few weeks before everything went down. The defense was absolutely horrible to her on cross examination, and she described the day that she was with him as one of the lowest points of her life, and that if she knew somebody that was 19 and this guy is 28 years old, it's not that she consented to everything, but there was a part of her that felt like she was in a vulnerable state, and that vulnerable state was taken advantage of. The doctor also described that these diagnoses could create the perfect storm that, in her opinion, could severely impair a person's judgment and decision making. But that doesn't mean that they aren't legally responsible for their behavior. So, did he have poor judgment? Yes. Did he probably have poor decision making? Yes. But did he lack the capacity to know that what he did was wrong? To me, his behavior's after. So he saw his neighbor. He saw his neighbor, I think in the elevator or somewhere, that lived directly across from him right after the incident. And he initially kind of smiles at him and talks about having this bad day, but he's not losing it. And the prosecution brings up the fact that he didn't attempt to render first aid. He didn't do the things that, like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? He's saying those things. And the prosecution even seemed to think that him yelling Anna, Anna, that was more of a way for the neighbors to hear and think that he had just found them like that. But the neighbor across the street heard the 6 shots, and wow. So let's take a look at the cross-examination. If y'all have questions, please, please, please let me know. So not cross-examination, the closing arguments. I'm going to start with, let me see. I apologize. We're going to start with the defense. We have to. We have to. Okay. We're going to start with the defense and we're going to take a breath. The defense is doing their job and they're, advocating for their client. Okay. And so that is what we're going to listen to. Going to share this tab. All righty. So let's start here. The defense is going to blame Anna. And even if Anna was in a relationship with Ray, in my opinion, she had every right to move on with her life. She had told Ali that they were done. She was trying to talk with the apartment about getting him off of the lease. She was actively taking steps to get him out of her life. She was still going to keep him in their daughter's life, which was going to co-parenting with somebody like Ali would have been really, really difficult for her because I think he would have used any attempt of like to co-parent as a way to try to attempt to get back with her or as an attempt to hurt her. I he doesn't sound emotionally healthy. He does bring up the fact that he participated in neurofeedback. So neurofeedback is something where they connect you to an EEG or some type of device that you use. You can train your brain to activate certain parts of the brain that for ADHD can be underactive. I have recommended that clients talk or consult about possibly considering um, neurofeedback. For the severity of his behaviors, I would have recommended, first of all, that they physically separate and have safety. Anna was not safe. He was not being a safe person that they needed to, and he needed to do intensive individual therapy. And I'm talking to address those problematic personality traits, to, to address all those things. And was she perfect? No. And yet she did not deserve what happened. She had every right to leave. And it was just very, very problematic, so problematic. Even the bag that was found in her hand, there was a part of me that wondered if that was her bag, like, if he was trying to make her look like a bad person. I don't know if anybody has brought that up. I don't think anybody really thought, I don't know that anybody said that. The fact that he put, like, 2 bullets by her feet, there were just very strange things that happened in this case. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at a portion of the defense's closing.
He did not know for sure until the first time that he believed Anna blatantly lied to him. This is about being in the apartment on 10/21.
And you can lie to your partner and that not be a death sentence. And honestly, I don't think he was safe enough for her to tell him the truth. So when you have this explosive personality, the people around you might lie to you as a way to just distract or minimize. Y'all let me know in the chat if y'all have looked up, if anybody has seen the brother's criminal history, because there was a part of me that also wondered. So Ali's brother was arrested for an incident in Virginia in April of 2021, and Ali comes back to Virginia. It's not in April, but Ali comes back to Virginia, and they allege that, like, the brother had some type of mental health episode that resulted in, and nobody died in that instance. Uh, but it was something that was pretty messed up. But then Ali ends up having this incident later on. Oh, wow. So all I was able to find, I found one thing from April of 2021. That's what I found. And that's what I found. Uh, um, wow. It's just, this is such a difficult case. I'm gonna interrupt the defense because I'm gonna wanna explain.
And this is all part and parcel of the provocation. It occurred over a long period of time with Anna and over a shorter period of time with Ray. Heated passion does not require anger, rage, or any specific emotion. It can be any violent or intense emotion that causes a person to act without due deliberation and reflection.
And I think the prosecution did a good job talking about the fact that he did have, um he did seem to put a lot of thought into this. And, Sarah, because I wanted to highlight this comment. Ooh, sorry, I didn't click, there we go, click the right one. So Ali did not have any confirmed instances of this, and he was a registered holder in Virginia. I don't think he had went through whatever California's process was. I know that he was a concealed carry. He was able to do that in Virginia. California has a different process. And I think Anna's immigration status, he held the fact that she was on a marriage visa. Now, I think at some point a marriage visa turns into citizen. I thought a marriage visa could turn into citizenship, or once you're married for a particular point of time, if the divorce doesn't work out, as long as it wasn't a sham and there was medical records, there were things to show that her husband was being unsafe, and she also has a daughter that's an American citizen. I would have thought she would have been able to stay even if she had divorced him. I don't believe she ever met with a divorce attorney. I don't think she ever talked about those things. Ali, it sounds like he worked for the military. It sounds like he was I don't know if he was a contractor, because somebody from from wherever he worked. He had a 9 to 5 job, and then he also did TikTok, YouTube, Instagram as kind of a side thing. But, I think the YouTube, TikTok, those things, I think, supplemented their income, and if Ali did have criminal charges, that would have affected his security clearance. And there are individuals who are in positions of power that will wield that over their partner to keep them from pressing charges. And that's where people have to consult with an attorney. Because I think it's so complicated. So complicated. So I personally see more of a malignant narcissistic personality. So especially with Anna, because to me, he showed his dark side fully to her. And with other people, he might present as a vulnerable narcissist, but then the minute he's questioned or things aren't going his way, he becomes very reactive. And that's where some people might point to some of the borderline personality features, possibly. But yeah. All right. So let's keep going with this.
It never stopped in this relationship. It never took a break. There was never a time when Ali got an answer from Anna that made sense about the.
But he wasn't accepting her no. And I think on the stand, he said something to the effect of, "If he couldn't have her, nobody could have her." Talking about, didn't Anna have the right to move on? And he said no. And that's where I'm pretty sure his defense team recommended that he not testify because that's not a good thing. I'm gonna fast forward to 149. 149. 149, 42. Right about there.
He didn't want to lose Anna, but the pressure to remain with his family and his brother was heavy. This push and pull happening here in Virginia. Ultimately, he told us that he believed he should not lose his marriage over this, so they all packed up and went to San Diego. At the beginning, life in San Diego was good. Ali quickly found work on the naval base. They secured an apartment right in the heart of downtown, and they enjoyed their days here. Gin Kid, the brand, was really taking off, and the fan base was growing. Ali was gaining the attention of movie stars and other comedians, people who wanted to work with him. He was excited and happy, and his confidence was growing in a way that only the lure and power of social media can feed.
So now we're blaming social media. Okay. I hope the jury can see through all of this.
Ali's star was rising, and at the same time, Anna was growing more and more distant. To Ali, there seemed to be a shift in Anna. Arguments were happening regularly over all sorts of things: online fame, the traditional accusations of cheating, Ali's growing drug abuse, the way in Anna's eyes that Ali had changed. He was acting crazy and mentally ill, just like his brother. As the weeks and months went on, Anna recognized that Ali was getting worse. And in her words, she described him as coked out 24/7, mentally unstable, not the man she married. As we heard from Ali and his mother Dalal, he was always someone who suffered from the cycles of the high highs and the low lows. He was at times fun and creative and cycling high, full of energy, impulsivity, emotionally unregulated, quickly and rapidly changing through emotions and feelings. And at other times, he was low and depressed and crippled by self-doubt, never knowing where he fit in or even how to fit in.
And to me, what she's describing are more the highs and lows of a borderline personality or narcissistic. Like, is my ego being fed? To me, that's what she's describing more than with bipolar disorder. Those ups and downs come out of nowhere. It's not necessarily based on what's happening. Definitely stressors can trigger a manic or depressive episode, but it is a biological chemical imbalance. And they're going to say that the psychologist said that ADHD can turn into bipolar disorder. And I wish I had that testimony because I don't know if that's exactly what the expert said. But those are two completely separate diagnoses, completely separate. So, an individual that maybe where bipolar disorder runs in the family and also ADHD, or maybe the bipolar disorder was misdiagnosed as ADHD, like that was confusing to me, very as a, like, person that diagnoses these conditions. Now, sometimes, especially a bipolar 1, because yeah, that's difficult, and the prosecution is gonna come back and say that all of these diagnoses are based on Ali's self-report.
We know he had the ADHD diagnosis, and as Dr. Lehman told us, ADHD in children is often later diagnosed as bipolar in adults, matching her diagnosis of Ali.
And I wonder, so I wish we had the doctor's testimony. So I am hoping that the defense got that expert's testimony wrong. So individuals can have both, but A ADHD does not regularly turn into bipolar disorder. Like, that's not a thing. Now, if you have a family history of bipolar disorder, yes, like individuals, so the symptoms of bipolar disorder can start to manifest as early as maybe 16, 17. What can be common is college age, so 19 to 22 or 23, that's when the symptoms can sometimes come on, but I have never heard about ADHD turning into, like, those are ADHD is a prefrontal cortex issue. Bipolar disorder are the brain chemicals not balancing out the way, like, that is very odd. And then I also think the addiction piece adds a significant component. Untreated ADHD increases the risk of substance abuse because the person sometimes when they're really hyper, they'll sometimes use something to calm down, or if they're having trouble like the the stimulants are sometimes the things that they end up abusing. So when somebody with ADHD takes prescribed stimulant medication, their brain is going to function the way that, like, they're not going to get high. If you abuse those substances, that's when you're going to have issues. We're still waiting for the verdict. I have not seen. So this is coming out of California, all right? And the news, yeah, I'm still seeing jury deliberating. I have not seen that they have come to a decision yet. So they are deciding what is the charge that he's for Ray. They're deciding for Anna, and then I think there are two other things that they're deciding on. And yes, because I truly hope that they come to first degree for Ray. Like, uh, like he there was it was 3 seconds, 3 seconds. So there was a great question. Here we go. I sometimes click on the wrong thing. How do you get tested to see if you have ADHD as an adult? If you are in the United States and if you want to use your insurance, then you're going to want to find a psychologist. So somebody that's licensed as a psychologist in your area that does psychological testing. And in my therapeutic resources, I think I have a video about common questions. And so please check out that video, and you can comment on a video. So, like, not in the chat, but actually on a video, and I can link it if you have any trouble finding it. But there are resources for getting diagnosed as an adult. I'm an '80s baby where, like, yeah, ADHD was really minimized as people were just lazy, they weren't trying hard enough, and I am so glad that a diagnosis of ADHD makes a lot of sense for me. It describes a lot. My talkativeness in school, my uh, even now, my closet is normally a mess, but I found a system that works for me. What I did for my closet, I moved a so I have a pretty large walk-in closet, okay? I love a good big closet, but normally it gets destroyed because I just clean clothes, I would never actually put them away. So what I did for my system, this is a little like side note. For my system, what I did was I added hangers to where the clothes go when they're dry, because laundry is never done. Like, laundry is always in a state of something's dirty, something's in the washer, something's in the dryer, something needs to be folded, something needs to be put away, and then something's probably gonna be dirty again. Laundry's never done. So on normally Saturday or Sunday, the laundry, I start the process and it ends up in the guest room. I have some privilege, okay? It ends up in the guest room and I have hangers in there where I can just put it on the hanger and then it immediately goes to my closet. Because if it's not already where it's the way it's supposed to be and it goes in my closet, it's just gonna be on the floor. Like I have parents that come in and they're complaining about their kid's room not being dirty, and, like, sometimes I tell them, I'm like, "Ooh, like, I never had a clean room." I never ever had a clean room. My poor mom, and y'all see her in the chat sometimes. Alright, so I hope. Alright, um so what I did was I added a, because okay, so Imma tell y'all, to get to my closet, you walk through the master bathroom, but my dresser is all the way in the bedroom. So there's this big gap between my closet and the dresser. I never use the dresser. I use my closet. So I added a dresser to I just moved the dresser to the closet, and it's, like, made my life twenty times easier. And a friend of mine that has ADHD, I saw her do something like that, and I was like, "Yes, that's exactly what I need." Alright, so that's our squirrel moment. Let's get back.
Growing up in Ali's house was nothing short of terrible. And a lot of discussion with the witnesses about what it was really like. But when Dalal finally broke down on the stand about the types of abuse she suffered and the types of abuse that Ali suffered, those emotions and those feelings were real. Ali's father was extremely abusive, chasing Dalal around the house, trying to break down the doors to get to her, screaming, throwing things. And his mother, Dalal, was constantly keeping secrets from Nasser. I don't know if you picked up, but when she said that the way she disciplined the children was to threaten that she was going to rat them out to their father. If that doesn't tell you what sort of reaction Nasser had to his children in that household at that time, I don't know what would.
My mic! I said so many good things. I said all the good things. I tried to mute myself just in case. So I was going off. Nobody could hear me. Nobody could hear me, Kate. I was muted. So what I was saying is that Ali, to me, I don't think he has the insight to realize that he became worse than his dad. Because it sounds like his dad, like based on Ali's description, it sounds like there was at least emotional and there was like, because I think his dad would throw things at his mom or something. Like it sounds like there was some significant things in the home, but Ali had a good relationship with his dad. He talked to him periodically, and when Ali found out that his mother was having an affair, so when Ali found out that his mother was having an affair and was leaving his father, he either pushed or hit his mom and finding that out. And there's this weird projection, I think, that happened where, because all of this happened right around the time things started escalating between him and Anna, and I'm sure he never thought that his mom would ever leave his dad. I don't think he ever thought. And his mom has moved, like, I don't know if she's still with the guy that she met, because I guess she met somebody online, and she disappeared and broke contact with everyone for a period of time. And it's my understanding that Ali was losing it, not being able to contact his mom and not realizing, I think, that she just needed space. She had finally broke free. Probably all of her life, she had probably done what was best for other people, and this one time she did what she thought was best for her. And I think he was desperately afraid that Anna would do the same thing to him. And that I don't know, because we talk about premeditation legally. I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched some lawyers. I don't know, but I think he said, "If I get there and something's happening," I think in his mind, I think he planned to handle it. But that's just my thinking. I don't know what was in his thought. With the amount of nose powder that he admitted to doing, all of it just sounds so, so, so problematic. I'm sure, and none of that is an excuse for what Ali did. And it sounds like his sister might be, I don't know if she's okay. It sounds like his brother, Sammy, has struggled, and Ali has definitely had some struggles. I hope that his sister has found a good therapist and is, because sometimes you have to break these generational patterns. You have to break these cycles, and there are new things that you have to learn and implement. Because if you he did the same things that his dad did, just a little different. But I don't think he'll ever, because he has to be the perpetual victim. He never admits Anna had every right to leave him. She had every right to move on with somebody else. She did not belong to him. I still don't think that he'll acknowledge that. So, so, so problematic. I'm catching up on the chat. I don't think they charged him with possession of anything. I think he probably had something on him, because he describes having it in the car. I don't know that he was, because I think they were trying to get him for the double homicide. I think that was their first. I think there are 2 other charges, involuntary use might be one of the charges, because I think he's facing 4 charges. I could be wrong. I know it's, the double homicide, and then I think there might be two other charges besides that. My child is having fun if my noise cancellation isn't working. He If he could have accepted accountability, he could have changed his behavior. So somebody asked me, could somebody like this, could he have changed? And that would have been completely up to Ali. Completely up to Ali. And also Anna, because if the only way for Ali to get better is if Anna agreed to stay with him, that's problematic, because he would have had to accept that she has every right to leave him. In my opinion, maybe, I don't know, probably a lot of people's opinions, in a safe relationship, I can leave at any time. I choose to stay. So I've been married for 10 years, and my husband and I, it's 2024. We met in 2000. We met a long time ago. And from the very start of our relationship, we talked about the fact, "Hey, if either one of us ever thinks," because my thing is, don't drag me along and you don't wanna be with me. Like, don't do that. And our marriage is closed, so if I found out that my partner was having an affair, or if he found out that I was having an affair, and the our agreement is for that could be a reason for one of us to decide, I'm done, and, like, we'll have to work out co-parenting. Like, that's something that we have discussed. That's the boundaries within our relationship. I work with clients that are in open relationships, that are polygamous. I work with a lot of different people. For me, in my marriage, that's what we do. We have a closed relationship. With my I don't go through my husband's phone. I have the password to his phone. He has the password to mine. He could, like, if he wanted, like, I don't know, he could, but I've never went through his phone. He's never went through my phone. I have male friends that sometimes message me, and out of respect, all of them are married to to somebody else, and anytime that happens, I just mention to my husband, like, "Oh, yeah, by the way, so and so," and it's just out of respect for my husband. Just like if he ever did look at my phone and saw a message from somebody, it's like, "Oh, yeah, so and so did this." And I've collaborated with male creators before, and anytime we're, like, DMing to set something up or schedule, my partner's aware of what I'm doing, and it's just out of respect. It's just communication. That's what we've established within our marriage, within our relationship. I think within a healthy I wouldn't be with somebody where I had to check their phone. That's stressful as hell. Like, why am I having like, what? I'm on my phone enough. I am not about to be all up on your phone. So let me take a look. Welcome to the Psych Nerds. So that's what we call our little community. Thank you, Barb, for the super sticker. And then also, you said, I wonder how he was able to enlist in the army. So he was not even with an ADHD diagnosis, you can enlist in the Army if you haven't been on medication for a particular period of time. Some people don't disclose all of their medical history, and you can be in the military now because I accept TRICARE. I'm not accepting new clients. That's not why, but I work with active duty, retired. I work with military service and people and their families. And I do have clients that are prescribed antidepressants, that are prescribed ADHD medication, that are prescribed all kinds of things. Um, in order to enlist in the military, you can't be on medications for a particular period of time. They're constantly adjusting that. And I think they'll continue to tweak it because for basic training, you're typically not on medication during basic training. So that's my understanding of things. I hope that's helpful. All right. Yes. Untreated ADHD is exhausting, completely exhausting. TRICARE, I am SL Conley. They are the bane of my existence. I try to ask for them to pay me more and they keep saying no. I really enjoy serving servicemen and women, and uh I grew up military. My dad is retired Air Force. I have lots of family members that are active duty, retired. And so I have a big heart for the military. Y'all know I didn't grow up with my dad. I grew up with my mom, but we traveled to different Air Force bases. That's how I lost my medical records before the age of like 14. Germany lost all of my medical records. It's a whole thing, whole other conversation. Squirrel moment. All right. Yes, yes, yes. So, yes. He would appreciate that. All right. So let me go on ahead and play a little bit more of this.
And it wasn't just directed at Talal. Ali was the subject of the abuse. Being beaten with a vacuum cord,
Oh, don't
punched,
focus.
slapped, items.
YouTube is not going to like that. All right. So we're going to fast forward to 302:26. So now we're going to get to because the defense is going to like play this whole sob story that I do think Ali likely does have complex trauma, and that's what made him a greater risk. So when that goes untreated, a problematic personality trait is developing antisocial features. So, in my opinion, Ali devalued Anna's life. And when you do that, when you think you get like, if you don't have her, nobody can have her, and you don't care, that's very problematic. It's very, very problematic. All right, so we are at 302. Okay, right about here. So the prosecution is gonna push back on some of the things that the defense just said.
Out of his entire phone. I asked him questions and he would get mad because he knew things were damaging to him. That was the acting performance of a lifetime on that stand.
When she said that, it reminded me of Amber Heard trial. Like, don't y'all like she had to have watched the Amber Heard trial, the acting. Oop, That was that was Amber Heard, right? The performance of a lifetime. That has to be Amber Heard. I think that was that trial. That had to like she had to have watched that trial. Yes. So this is the prosecution rebutting what the defense just said. Because the defense went, it was a long, and he has a good defense team. In my opinion, the defense team went a little hard on witnesses to try to make Ali look better. But to me, it didn't make him look better. It kind of made them look worse, that they're just trying to blame everybody and not taking responsibility for anything. Oh, I'm not surprised. If that's true, I'm not surprised. Poor thing. Uh,
And you saw it, it was fake. His anger was on display on the stand, not mental illness.
his anger was displayed on the stand, not mental illness. And I had somebody get mad at me because I covered the Nancy Murder She Wrote lady, and somebody was like, "How can somebody without mental illness, like mental illness is the reason why somebody would unalive somebody?" And it's like, no, some people are just like some people just for whatever reason, like it doesn't have to be mental illness. Like it just makes me so mad when people try to make everything about mental health and it might not be. Now, antisocial personality disorder isn't a defense. So that is the only thing, and that might be why they didn't go with an insanity defense, because antisocial personality disorder can't be there if there's an insanity defense. Because your mental health can't be that you go against social norms and social laws and you're okay breaking the law. That can't be it. And so I just this is this is very, very yep. So for the Nancy case, I covered her testimony and I have never laughed so hard. So it wasn't that it was funny. So she labeled where the ghost gun was, she labeled it purses, scarves, and GK. And then when she was asked about it, she said that she labeled it for the police. And that just blew everybody's like, why would you label like, why would you say the reason why you labeled that? Like, she was such a writer and trying to fill in all the holes. She filled in one too many holes, okay? She filled in one too many. And for me, I wasn't getting that she she was a she was just not a nice person. And what she did, she wanted the money. Like, that's the reason why. I don't think it was because she was and we use the word crazy too much, and I'm not a fan because that's not mental health. Like, she didn't lose it. She planned and plotted because she wanted a life insurance policy. That's what she did. And so, yeah, somebody got mad. I can't have a twin flame. I have a husband. I think I told y'all. I did have somebody that said God told them that we were supposed to be together, and I'm like, That's not according to my husband." And I had to block them on all social media. It wasn't good.
Statements he's made throughout this case are all self-serving. They're all about him, and he is just sorry that he was caught.
I have to keep pausing it because that's so good, because it's so true. The statements he made, they were all about him. It was all self-serving. It was just about poor me. She made me. She did this, and I'm this, and I'm that. And somebody got mad because I said that, and they were like, "But this is his trial." Yes, he should be telling his story, but to me, he still made it all about him. He still made it all about him. Oh, they also said performance of a lifetime about Lana Turner's testimony. Wow. Cool. Thank you for adding that. We're we're still waiting. Um, all right, I'm gonna play a little bit more of this.
The defense has been telling you during her closing, focus on his feelings.
Why?
Why should we focus on his feelings? He killed 2 people.
Exactly.
He's a person who's jealous, possessive, controlling, violent, and he wouldn't let Anna go. That's who he was.
And none of those things are necessarily like so yes, some of the symptoms of some of those things fit within a mental health diagnosis, but like this is who he was and he had to learn to let people go. And I don't know if he ever would have. I honestly don't know if which is very sad. I don't know that there was any escape from this for Anna. And some people have said in the comments of some of my other videos about him that they've dated people like him or that this can bring up a lot for people. And that's one person in particular said that they're very glad that they didn't get pregnant with their ex because they would have been tied to them for years and years. And something either happens to the child or something happens to the partner. Like, in a situation that gets this volatile, like and so that's where I wish that she could have had access to a shelter. It sounds like she was trying to stay away from pressing charges, and, shelters aren't great because it's gonna be when I say aren't great, I mean, like, it might have been a different standard of living that she was used to, or like she might have had to pull her daughter out of school, like, there might have been a lot of things because. And he still might have tried to track her. I don't know that there was a safe way out of this for her, which is it just breaks my heart.
And her friends were scared for her. You heard Julia and Claire testify that they noticed red flags and they told her, you should leave him. What happens if you get killed? Well, that's what happened. They were scared for her. The defendant was a time bomb that just went off. It was not if he was going to kill, it was when, and he did that. A couple other jury instructions I want to point out that you can consider. Again, motive. Motive to kill shows the defendant's guilt. The defendant's false statements, there's a jury instruction on that. There's consciousness of guilt every time he makes a false statement. You can consider his flight after the murders to show that he was aware of his guilt. And witness credibility is such an important thing in this case. You can evaluate the credibility of all witnesses. I talked to you about that in court here. And you saw friends come in here and cry and be upset. They were showing their real emotions. What reason did Ashley Sanchez have to come in here and lie? That's what the defense is claiming. Oh, why was she so scared of him? Well, she told you that it was after they were hanging out. She was with him for a couple hours and started to realize things about him, how creepy and scary he was. She didn't tell you she was scared while she was with him. It was afterwards.
Ashley was the 19-year-old that the defense really went hard, like, just really just like, "Well, you chose to go. You chose to use substances. You made you were already under the influence of cannabis that day." Like, the defense really went hard for her, and to me, her testimony because it was a really tough day for her, it was a really rough time, and she was in a very vulnerable place, and in my opinion, an individual like him can pick up on that pretty quickly, but she was so smart, and I was so proud of her to realize, even in her dark, hurting place, who on a first date is showing you their TikToks? Like, that is a huge red flag. So if you are dating somebody that's an influencer and during the date y'all watch hours of, like, their TikToks, that's a huge red flag. Like that is one of the most narcissistic things I think I've ever heard. Like, you mean they go to their profile and they watch their own videos with you? Like, that is weird. Who does that? Now, so sometimes I watch my stuff by myself. My husband doesn't watch all of my videos. I laugh because we have his account his Google account connected to a TV, and when my videos show up, like I because he's not going to click on it. He doesn't watch this type of content, and it's fine. It would be weird if I forced him to like watch my videos. He doesn't. It's fine. He doesn't like it. We don't have to like the same things. Like, it's super, super silly, and, I love that we're pointing out the fact they are in California, and so it's only 3 o'clock. There's still a lot of time, and they might go until tomorrow because they're considering a lot of evidence, a lot of testimony, and, I'm glad that they're taking time with that. It would be so weird for a date to pull up their social media and make you watch their social media. Now, if I found out that if I was single and if the person I was dating, if they had social media, I would go and look at it. So my partner and I, we met on Facebook. He reached out, but we knew a mutual friend, and that person connected us, was like, "Hey, check out her profile, see if just see if you'd want to connect." And I had just signed up for eHarmony and not had a good experience. And so my mom knew that I was open to dating. And so like they made it. But I researched him. So I did like, but on the first date, I'm not asking, oh, so like tell me about this post. Like I'm not bringing up stuff I saw like on his social media. I waited like a year to let him know that I did. I had a file on him. I think it's important that you research people. He took pictures, like, he's so weird. Um, so the defense is saying that he has bipolar disorder, ADHD, substance abuse, and personality like, a spectrum of personality disorders. A lot of cluster B, so antisocial, narcissistic, and borderline. Those were the 3. And so that's what they're saying, and that he snapped. They're trying to say in the heat of the moment, and Anna was just on the so I think if he had caught her in the actual act, not that that would have made it better, but, like, they were literally sitting on the couch. They were just sitting on the couch talking, and on the app, he thought it sounded too loud. I don't trust his judgment. What? Like, I don't trust that he didn't know that it was Ray. So Ray looks kind of handsome to me. Let me find a picture of Ray. Um, I think Ali was threatened by Ray. Um, we covered his video, his interview where he was losing it. Okay, I think I am gonna show this picture though, because I think it's good for us to remember kind of. So I'll share this tab. So this is how he looked at his arrest, and I think they specifically asked a cousin, like, how he looked back during that time. He has grown out his hair, and his hair it grows fast because in the past few years, like, his hair has grown a ton in this period of time. But um, I think he was jealous of Ray. Ray looked handsome to me, like, just and ugh, Ali was being harmful to her, and she had every right to leave him. Alright, let's play a little bit more of the prosecution. They've been right on point.
And the defendant testified that the social worker, Sarah Duran, came in here and lied about what she said about Amira for fame. That's ludicrous. What is the social worker coming in here for fame for? She simply told you about an experience she had with Amira that touched her because she was in a similar situation with her son, and she told you about that. Again, Jacora said there's no reason to come in here and lie. So you don't have to be cautious about the testimony of these people. What you have to be cautious about is the defendant's testimony. I want to talk to you about voluntary intoxication.
I also want to say I think he was jealous of the fact I think Anna could have moved on relatively quickly. He does not have a very good personality, in my opinion. Like, who he doesn't have a very good personality. I don't think people really wanted to be around him. I think Anna was the life of the party. She was the one that had friends. He talked about being in Japan and having difficulty making friends. It's just very, very problematic.
The defendant willingly used cocaine. That was his choice. We don't know how much he used. We can't trust that he's telling us, I used 4 to 5 bombs, then I used another bomb, then I snorted the whole bag, put both my nostrils in the bag. We don't know what he actually used that day. But what did he tell you about his cocaine use? Oh, 15 minutes later, he doesn't feel the effects anymore. He wasn't high that day.
And that could have been him bragging. He seems like he would brag about something weird. And that's just a weird thing to brag about. Like that's just a weird thing to possibly brag about.
The cocaine use had no effect on him. He never attempted to get help for this. He just kept using. So he cannot come in here and say that he's not guilty of first-degree murder because he was under the influence of cocaine. No, he never cared to get himself help or rehab or go to NA meetings. He just kept using. He's got a high tolerance. So even if he used some cocaine that day, it didn't affect him when he was murdering Anna and Ray.
And I think with the isolation, and I think Anna probably made friends easily. So even the woman that he met in the elevator, I think they said Ashley, she became friends with Anna on Instagram. And Ali was mad about that, was mad that and and Ashley was like, Anna was kind and they were like she was friendly with her. And I think Anna just had this magnetic personality and he had one that made you want to like repel and go to the other room. I don't think and those are things but I don't think he took feedback well, because if somebody said, "Hey, these are things you could work on," I think he would hear it as the person being critical or judgmental of him, and I don't know that he would have done anything different. And he probably thought moving out there that he would have, like, he'd be able to go to LA and do all these things, and he would get more and more famous, but she was also going to be able to have her star because she had her own social media as well. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit past some of these words. All right, let's see where we are.
She talked about him, the perfect storm, and him being psychiatrically compromised, but
I'm gonna go back because she's talking about
goal-oriented behavior
the
multiple times, and that could affect her.
I'm going this is
She
the
has 2 other diagnoses, 21st, to see the defendant's demeanor.
this is the expert
Very close with him. They had a good relationship.
father.
He financially supported him and emotionally, and the defendant took his dad's side in this separation with the mom, and he slapped his mom, shoved her, whatever it is that he did, but he was physical with his mom too. But we know this had no effect the day of. Let's talk about Dr. Lehman. The defense also brought up mental health. The defendant kept telling you, I was mentally ill. What do we know from the doctor? She did not review any evidence, video or audio, on October 21st to see the defendant's demeanor, to see how he was acting, to be able to even say whether he was manic that day or not. She didn't review any of that. Why not? Because he wasn't manic, and you can clearly see that. She did not diagnose the defendant until 2.5 years later. And when I asked her, I said, you wrote a letter in February 2024 saying he only has bipolar disorder, and then in April, he has 2 other diagnoses. You didn't receive any new information. She diagnosed him 2.5 years later. So we don't know what his status was on October 21st. And what do we
So I wasn't able to see that testimony. I wish that Dr. Lehman's testimony was available, but, um, yes. I wish that her testimony was publicly available. From what the prosecution said, it sounds like there was one letter, there was diagnosis that was given in a letter, and I don't know what all she reviewed. I don't know if she saw that interview that he did with Dateline or whoever the interview was with. That interview was unhinged. That was very, very problematic. He was never court ordered to any type of treatment, I don't believe. With the military, he wasn't kicked out for medical reasons. He was kicked out for his behavior, and nothing ever came up saying that he had mental health conditions or a mental health reason. That never came up. He told this story about getting kicked out after what somebody thought, like Anna fell down and somebody thought that he had pushed her and then a big fight ensued. I don't believe what he says because everything he's saying now is to avoid punishment. So I would have believed whatever the report said from back then but I just don't believe him now because he's trying to not go to jail for the rest of his life. Because if he gets murder 1 for because he'll be facing life without the possibility of parole if one of them come back with murder 1. If both of them come back with murder 1, it would probably be, um, I would guess that it would be that would be the sentence, but we will see.
We know from the testing, the interview of the defendant was all his own statements. The testing was all his own statements, circling those somewhat true, very true, things like that. We have to rely on the defendant telling the truth to the doctor, and we know he didn't. All those test questions were present tense. They weren't asking him how he was feeling the day he killed Anna and Ray. It was how he was feeling in December of 2022. So we cannot rely on this testing and these diagnoses. The doctor admitted the defendant lied multiple times, and that could affect her opinion or diagnosis. So we can't trust it.
The prosecution is doing a good job, and I think she saved this portion for this half of the rebuttal because the defense can't come back and say anything after this. So this is gonna be the last thing that the jury is left with because she has a PowerPoint. Like, she's ready for all of this. I think she knew what the rebuttal part was going to entail.
Well, what did she tell us? And the same thing I asked you about in voir dire. I acknowledge people have mental health diagnoses. We know that. But people with bipolar disorder can still make rational decisions.
So glad that she said that. People with bipolar disorder, with borderline personality disorder, people with mental health conditions. Now, an individual with BPD, there can be emotional erratic decisions, but they're not necessarily always violent. They can be that particular diagnosis. There can be a higher risk of DV because of some in the moment stuff. His plotting and planning, especially the app on his daughter's iPad and having escalated things over this period of time, that's what has me thinking more along the lines that yes, he should be legally responsible for his behavior, even if a mental health condition might have contributed to it. So, yes. Yeah, so this go back. The full rebuttal is good. We're just covering a portion because y'all know. So this was the important part for me, her talking about the psychologist evaluation.
They can still premeditate and deliberate. They can still have goal-oriented behavior. And the doctor agreed with me. She didn't talk to the defendant about the day of and the murders.
And I don't know if the defense specifically, so she went in to assess him as of 2022. She wasn't going in saying because it wasn't an insanity defense. For an insanity defense, you go in to assess their state of mind at the time of the crime. That's not, it sounds like they just wanted a clinical assessment of his and what his mental health diagnoses were. It sounds like that's what the defense was looking for.
Could not testify that he was exhibiting any mental health symptoms that day. she talked about him, the perfect storm, and him being psychiatrically compromised, but she said, I can't tell you he had any symptoms of bipolar disorder or any other diagnosis on the day of. And she could not testify that he was manic.
So this incident happened in October of 2021. It sounds like he was assessed in 2022. And they received the final report. It sounds like they received the final report in April of 2024, like this year. They received the final report. So
Or that other stressor disorder played any role on the day of the murders. So you know there's a mental health instruction, but again, he could still inform the intent to kill. We didn't see any mental health records of the defendants. No military or VA records, no medical records, no proof that he had any diagnosis before October 21st. He told you he went to neurofeedback treatment and he brought a machine home, but he never continued to use it. So every time I asked him, why did you not get help for your violence? If you really wanted to get better, why didn't you seek out domestic violence classes, anger management? He didn't. He didn't do that because he did not care. And he didn't use his machine to help improve. You have no evidence of mania, even if the defendant did have bipolar disorder before October 21st. It is no excuse for murder.
exactly.
It did not affect his ability to form the intent to kill.
And Kelly, so I have TikTok, and I wonder because he did skits of different violent movie characters. I think one of his favorites was Scarface, and that's where I think he was obsessed with this gangster culture, with this gangster kind of, I don't know, like he was obsessed with that type of world, this mob, this that type of thing, organized crime. Like it seemed like he was like obsessed with that kind of thing, and it didn't come off as a Muslim thing. So he, to my knowledge, he wasn't I don't know that I think he was Muslim by culture, but I don't think he was practicing because he was diagnosed with alcohol abuse. And yeah, so because some people are saying, what about the cultural impact, the culture, like within certain cultures, they view women a certain way and all those things. I think he was raised with some of those ideologies. And as the oldest male, he was raised with certain things, but then he continued that ideology, and he continued to struggle in just life and establishing healthy boundaries, healthy relationships with men and women. So it wasn't just with women, it was with men and women. Exactly. So that's I work with individuals who are Muslim, and most, I think it's Aman. So most Muslim religious leaders, if there is DV, and if it's a more like, as long as it's not like a very, very, because so there are Christian pastors that will tell a wife to like stay with an abusive person. So I don't believe within any religion that if somebody isn't safe, I think they should be able to leave within any religion. But I do know that within most of the more like, so as long as you're not on like an extreme, and every religion has its extreme. Because I did comment on somebody like, hey, so Ali does not get to represent all Muslims the same way that Chad Daybell doesn't represent everybody in the LDS faith. Like you just like that one person doesn't then get to represent the entire group. And it seems like Ali identified as more Arab, but it was his idea of what being Arab was. I don't know. Like he was very, very strange. Very, very strange. Yes. Abusive people, they will twist their religion in a way to justify and explain their actions as well. I agree. Because he didn't talk about not wanting to get divorced because it was against his religion, or because, I don't know, like it would bring shame to his family. He didn't say any of that. It was like, no, like she can't leave me. Like it was all about him. He didn't bring in any of those other ideologies within, that's just my personal thought. So y'all know I'm a very liberal Christian. if y'all can't tell by the pride flags, like I'm extremely liberal. I go to a pretty liberal church, and um, yeah, and there are times that I don't even mention my faith belief because people have in their mind what they think a Christian would do or what a Christian would say. Or I don't know, like people sometimes have in their mind an idea of what that means. And for me, I try to actively practice not putting my beliefs and my things on other people. Like, and I don't claim to know all. Like I don't know. And I'm respectful of others. Others are respectful of me. I've worked with people from just about every people that are I've worked with a little bit of everything. And the one thing that I hope people remember is how I treated them, how they felt while they were for my clients, the people that I worked with, for people that I'm friends with, that they remember but not me like texting or calling back. I'm not good at that. I'm horrible at calling back. Okay. I just am. I'm really bad at that. Yes, and Alec Murdaugh doesn't get to represent every person in the South, like, or every lawyer. He doesn't that this one person doesn't then get to represent everybody. Um, and so there are some people, so I don't think everyone has a particular belief. And, uh and solo suck. So I like to live by the platinum rule. My professor, Dr. Geller, talks about the platinum rule to treat others the way they want to be treated. So I try to treat people the way they want, not the way I want to be treated, because maybe the way I want to be treated isn't the way they want to be treated. So I try to treat people the way they want to be treated. And sometimes that involves me asking questions. I might have to check in to make sure that I'm not doing or saying something that is offensive to somebody, but like not on YouTube because like people can find another channel, but, like, I mean, like, in my clinical practice, in my work, in my real life, and so alright. Welcome, welcome. Oh, yeah. So, the platinum rule, Doctor Geller, I don't know if he's still alive, I hope he is. He battled prostate cancer back in, like, the 2000s, like, back I think 2003, 2004, I'm not sure. But the last time I checked, he was still alive. I don't know if he still works at Virginia Tech, but I'll never forget him talking about the platinum rule to treat people the way they want to be treated and not the way I would want to be treated. 'Cause it might not be the same. And so, we're gonna play a little bit more of this. If y'all have any questions, please let me know. Thank you to another new member. Thank you to Peggy. Welcome, welcome. So, psych nerds. That's what we call ourselves. It is so I did, Emily D. Baker has law nerds. We here are psych nerds, and, those communities overlap a ton. There are lawyer chicks that are in the chat. There are, grizzly true crime. There are grizzlies in the chat. I don't know that the lawyer I don't know if does he have something he calls his community? But I love just this community and sharing here. I'm almost at 20K. I'll have to check in just a second, but let's keep going.
Let me go back to this theme of respect. Again, this is why he killed. Anna disrespected him because of her friends. She disrespected him for leaving him. She disrespected him by being with another man. And Ray disrespected the defendant by saying he was lucky to have Anna.
And Ali says that Ali says that Ray called her like a B. I don't know, like that's your B, or I don't know. Like he said something. I don't know that I believe Ali. I just don't know because there were other people that were there that said what happened.
Disrespected the defendant by cuddling with her.
Just cuddling.
And when he killed Anna, he said respect, and he was never asked otherwise. What did you say? If you didn't say that word respect, what did you say? He wasn't asked that because he knows what he said. They didn't show him respect, so they were murdered. Again, to go back to the heat of passion, There was not sufficient provocation in this case. The defense brought up, oh, Anna went to IHOP with him, gave him pan-sit, said actions, not words. That is not sufficient provocation. And remember, she followed up actions, not words with, I do not want to be with you. Nothing's changed. She wasn't giving him hope. She's entitled to leave an abusive and controlling husband. That is not provocation. She doesn't need to keep forgiving him.
And a person can leave any partner, like not just one that's unsafe. Like, so that's what I say about I choose my partner every day. I'm here because I want to be. And is every day perfect? No. And he puts up with me. And so like anybody should be able, if you have to stay and if you can't leave, you're being held hostage. Like that's not okay. Like relationships to me, safe relationships involve choice. Where I'm here because I want to be, because I choose to be, because I don't know, for whatever my reason is. And I've worked with some people where they had to work through the financial aspect of leaving because they literally they couldn't afford it. And a divorce, especially the custody part, was going to be very expensive and they had to save money. And so they've had to kind of create safety while they could and have a plan for if things did escalate and have a plan for when they did decide to leave and to have all of those things in place. And I don't think Anna thought it would ever get that bad. Hmm. And she might have been a little desensitized to his harm just because it just happened for so long.
And said, well, she kept forgiving him. So that was part of the provocation. That's not provocation. She doesn't need to, and then she stopped forgiving him because she left him. His actions caused Anna to leave. She didn't provoke him, that was him. And Ray, again, was entitled to date whoever he wanted. So there is no heat of passion, voluntary manslaughter here because there is not sufficient provocation. And the defense said there was severe provocation. That's not a standard. Anna didn't severely provoke him. The average person in the same situation would not act rashly to seeing two people not having sex, fully clothed, sitting together on the couch. An average person would not act rashly because the defendant and Anna were not in a loving marriage. They were separated and not together. It's not the same situation as you walk in on your loving spouse having sex with someone. This was not that.
Because the defense tried to make it seem like anybody would have the similar emotions that he had walking into that situation. If I walked into our house and my husband was sitting on the couch with somebody I didn't or with somebody, I would be like, I would have some questions. I would have some questions. So I'm gonna make myself bigger for this. So what's going on? What's this about? Like I would definitely have some questions, but get I wouldn't get aggressive and I would definitely not go for her or him. I wouldn't go for the other person because I have a relationship with my partner. If I have an issue with my partner, I'm gonna take it up with them because they're the ones that I'm in a committed relationship with. I have nothing to say to the other partner. Like, I'm gonna have a conversation with my partner, and we have but, like so I'm not one if something did happen and my partner was doing something, I have an issue with him, I don't have an issue with anybody else. Just because I don't they owe me nothing. Now, if it was, like, my best friend or something, I would be, like I'd still be really upset at him, but I'd have some things to, like, work through. Because like, when it's a friend, that adds another dynamic. This but he is not a reasonable person. I think this he knew that he was losing her, and I don't think he wanted anybody else to have her, and that's why he did what he did, and we'll see if the jury sees it the same way.
They were not expecting him to walk in. They were not flaunting their cuddling in front of him. The average person would not act like the defendant did. We're back to first-degree murder. All of the things I already explained to you, all of the intent to kill, all of the choices that he made, that is all willful, deliberate, and premeditated actions and murder. And the defense gave you a lot of information in her closing, all these different things that might affect the case, that might show that the defendant was provoked. Let's go back to one big thing. One of the most important facts showing premeditation, the defendant brought a loaded gun into the apartment. He tried to say it wasn't loaded. We know that's not the case because of the 3 rounds on the floor. So we know he brought a loaded gun into that apartment. That shows premeditation. It was loaded, ready to fire, because that was his plan. I also talked to you about this in court here.
And he can't say that he didn't know that he had it on him because as he was running to get there, I guess he's pulling up his like the belt is weighing down the weapon is weighing down his pants and his pants are falling. And so he knew it was there.
We are all responsible for our life choices.
Yes.
A lot of people have been through breakups. Breakups are hard, and people get divorced, and that's hard. But you get through it. It's not a reason to murder. He is trying to avoid responsibility for what he did. Please hold him accountable for murdering Anna and Ray. Anna was his property, and Ray couldn't have her, and that's why he killed them. And I ask that you find him guilty of first-degree murder, 2 counts, along with both allegations. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So I think the prosecution definitely ended on a high note. Helen, thank you so much. I hadn't talked about that insecurity, misogyny, the need to be idolized. Because even his whole thing with the roses, I thought that was weird. And the fact that he harped on it so much, like I gave her roses, but she didn't say anything. And it's like you had physically like you had harmed her. You had been with somebody else. Like you had done all of these things, roses and groceries, that's not going to fix it. And then he throws away her expensive stuff. And I think he knew I could just it's just this whole thing was just so problematic, so tragic. And I share this information because there might be somebody that's in a situation like that. And that's where be careful what you Google from your phone. And what I mean by that is if your partner is tracking your phone. And so if you have a work computer that they don't have access to, a work email address that they don't have access to, change passwords if you can. Um, Start a new email address that they're not aware of and that like you don't have anywhere. There are certain things that people have to think about because when you go to a DV website, they warn you that like, hey, like a help website, they tell you that like you might be being tracked, and so to be careful of what you look for and all of those things. And so if somebody ever is in a situation like that, some people they're not able to leave immediately. And I want to reiterate the fact because somebody found this helpful in my last video that emotional harm is sometimes harder to leave because it's not a physical mark. I don't have medical records. And so when somebody is being emotionally abusive, that can sometimes be harder because they tear you down. And that's where resources like Dr. Ramani's book, It's Not You. There are a ton of resources that I've shared in a few other videos that I think can be really helpful. And I like her free resources here on YouTube. So Starbucks follows me on TikTok, which is like they used one of my videos years ago, and they sent me like a little like a thank you. I don't know, they sent some type of pack and this was in it. So this is not sponsored, but this was gifted a long time ago. But I don't do that much on TikTok. Like I'm here now. I post things every now and then, but not a ton. All right. Oh, and forgiveness does not mean that you have to go back. So I can go on a journey to free myself from the emotional bondage, the emotional, like I can go on a journey and not go back to the person. I think to Ali, forgiveness meant everything's fine. We're restored, we're reconciled, despite him not doing anything to actually change his behavior. He was on a cycle. And did she maybe engage in that cycle too? Did they maybe go back and forth some? Probably. Nothing anyone could have done could have, like, justified what he did. Absolutely nothing. Welcome, welcome, Kelsey. So glad when y'all get to catch it live. I love live videos. Thank you. It's authentic. So, I if you go back and watch the Nancy video, I have a section of it called "Say What," and that is I am, like, laughing so much in that portion of that video. Um, Lots of hearts and hugs to anyone that's in difficult situations or anyone that's leaving difficult situations. For anybody that has ADHD in graduate school, you can if you need accommodations or supports, your school might have an accessibility office. So I would check to see if your school has an accessibility office, and then I would see what productivity things work for you. So for me, I needed to go to someplace I couldn't study at home. So, like, do what things like work for you. PhD programs, there's this extra pressure of you have to get a B or higher. There are often a lot of papers, there are a lot of tests, and so, figuring out what works best for you. If you need, like, whatever if you need medication, like, however you treat, and then, making sure that you're in, if you need therapy, whatever supports you need, making sure to reach out for those. I've had some people that are diagnosed with ADHD in grad school because grad school is a lot more self-directed. It's even more self-directed than undergrad, and, there can be less papers, there can be less assignments than even in undergrad, and so just making sure that you, um yay, you've already contacted the accessibility office. Yes, awesome. And then follow creators that have ADHD and talk about things that work for them. So I love Emily D. Baker, just how open she is. I use caffeine to like it's my but healthy amounts, not the I've never done the charged lemonade from Panera Bread that has an obscene amount of caffeine in it. No. Um yeah, I don't do that one, but, I do, like, chai tea, and I do coffee in the morning, and so figuring out what things work best for you. Oh, first video you've seen. Welcome. Thank you for listening. I hope, and if you I have some few other videos on this case if you wanna check out the other ones. I did not cover all of his testimony because it's hard to watch Ali talk. He lost it on the stand. So I do watch Grizzly True Crime cover. She's been covering this case very thoroughly, and I have been, covering that one. Just found a local women's shelter and donated in honor of Anna. Thank you. Thank you so much. Um, those shelters literally save lives. They often ask the women to turn their phones off, or they have to turn them in, or they put them in special packs where they can't be tracked. They sometimes have a public place, and then they take them to a location. They often have security and they're but, like, I wanna say security, the location where they are often has security because some of those people for somebody that's in the type of relationship that Anna was in, the most dangerous time for them is when they decide to leave. Like, when they truly, truly decide to leave, that can often be one of the most scary times. And even if you have children, because it's my understanding, and I don't know, wasn't able to see the evidence of this, but it's my understanding that Anna was concerned about Ali eventually being aggressive towards their daughter, that things were escalating with him that bad that she was concerned about her. And now, if Anna was gonna get sole custody, she would need to be sober. She would have needed to, like, make certain changes. Um, that video, I don't know if she was joking in the video where she made the statement. It's my understanding that she did not leave their daughter with him alone for long periods of time. Anytime Anna left, she always took their daughter with her. And when she left him, it was kicking him out, and she was going to keep their daughter. And they were likely going to set up some type of a visitation. But so difficult. Um, Sometimes accommodations in college, sometimes people need additional time for additional time for taking tests. Sometimes there are accommodations about notes being provided, but not always. Sometimes the accommodations offered as you go up in education can get a little bit more difficult. So making sure that you have some good supports. There are some great books for managing. So everybody has different difficulties. So some people forget to eat. There is the psych doctor. Uh, she actually has an app. I forget. I'm gonna have to invite her on to talk about her resources, and but she's a psychiatrist that has ADHD. I will share psych doc um, Instagram. She's over on Instagram. She has a YouTube as well. Yes, Dr. Sasha Hamdi. Hum- Hamdani? I'm bad with names. Dr. Sasha Hamdani. She has resources and tools. She also has ADHD and talks about being a board certified psychiatrist that talks about ADHD. I learned from her, and it makes sense. So, a woman with ADHD, those symptoms get worse around your menstrual cycle. So either before, during, or after, different people, their hormone levels change. And so, but hormones can affect those brain chemicals, which can affect ADHD symptoms. So some people will have worsening symptoms during those times. There are things that can help you with those afternoon drops of attention or just that kind of lull that you feel later in the day. So protein, fresh air, and exercise, so getting up and moving a little, that those things are helpful. I love Grizzly, and anytime I'm in her chat, she always says hi. I really, really adore her channel. Um, but yes. All right. So thank you all so much for being here. I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your day. I will continue to watch for this verdict. I may go live. Let's see. My this week is booked because I was off yesterday. So that means my schedule filled up. I might end up with some time on Friday. So maybe Friday around lunchtime. Keep an eye out. I might do it, but I'll always schedule it. So if I schedule a live, it'll probably be about 11:30 or 12 that I might have something scheduled, probably for 12 o'clock. But I might be able to go live on Friday because we might have a verdict for Chad Daybell. Will we have a verdict for Ali Abulaban? Will we have a verdict for Chris Greger? Excuse me. Those are the cases that I've been watching very closely. Karen Reed, that case is a whole big mess. I haven't been following it as closely. Emily D. Baker is covering it. It's a huge mess. I am Eastern time zone, so it is almost 7 o'clock. I gotta go feed my kiddo. Yes, I'm in Virginia. I am Eastern time zone. All right. So I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day.